All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined today by Senior Director of Operations here at the Dayton Dragons, Mr. John Wallace. John, thanks for coming by today.
Hey, thanks a lot, Andrew. First time on the Dirt podcast, and looking forward to it.
Yeah, so today we're talking about weird moments in Dragons history. Wanted to bring you in because obviously you've been here since the beginning, since 2000. So you've seen like everything there is to see in the stadium seemingly at this point. So over 2 decades. I've got some of my favorite moments that I can remember since I've been here in like 2013, but I'm sure you have a ton more. So we'll go through a couple. Just one of those things where there's some stuff that happens at the stadium, I think that, especially if you're not here every day, on off days, there's some wonky, wild things sometimes that'll happen on off days. So one of my favorites that we'll jump into, this was my second year here in 2014. I vividly remember this. This is like a Thursday afternoon. It's about noon. One of our ticketing folks runs back in the ballpark into the office after walking out to the ballpark to go to lunch, and he screams, "There's a deer in the stadium." And I'll never forget Maurice coming back in, and we all looked at him. We said, "Maurice, there's no way there's a deer in the stadium. What are you talking about? We're in the middle of a city. It's not here." We go back out. Sure as heck, there's this deer that is just sprinting around the stadium like Usain Bolt, setting land speed records around the stadium. Do you remember this?
Yeah. Remember it like it was yesterday. From what I remember, I think it came in across the river and through the warehouse area and made its way in and couldn't find its way out. And in the meantime, proceeded to be chased by our old groundskeeper dog, Cooper.
Yep.
And chased it down on the field and up the ramp. And poor little deer ran into the fence out back and ended up back in the storage area.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was this deer wasn't just like, oh, you go out in the stadium and, oh, there's a deer just like sitting there. Like, no, this thing was tearing around. At one point, it went from, I remember it jumping from lawn D down to right field, so onto the field. It's running around on the field. It went down like section 115, 116. I think this thing got the full tour of their ballpark the entire time it was here. But yeah, again, one of those things where we're in an area that you think is landlocked enough that we wouldn't have deer roaming into the stadium, but this kind of stuff happens every once in a while. But yeah, I remember this is probably a 30-minute ordeal, just one of those things that there's never a dull moment here. Luckily, the police and the ODNR came and helped us get it out of the stadium. But yeah, just one of those days, a Thursday afternoon, no home game that you definitely won't forget anytime soon.
Yeah, well, for sure.
So are there any of those other types of stories that you can remember from your time here where it's just one of those days that seems mundane, seems normal, and then just something happens, you're like, only here, only working at a ballpark?
I guess to stay with the animal theme, we had the skunk game.
Rally skunk.
Yeah. You'll have to jog my memory on the year, but
yeah, this was 2016. It would have been. Yeah, and I remember. So this game was like, it's the end of the year. This game really probably doesn't mean anything at that point. We're like 45-90. Like, we're not a winning team. Yep. The Lansing Lugnuts, I think we were playing that day, were coming in like won their last 9 out of their last 10 games or something. It's David and Goliath here, and we're down. If I remember right, I think we were down like 3-10 going into like the 7th inning. So we're just, getting killed here. And then all of a sudden we slowly have this comeback and we get to 9-10. So we're down 1 run. It's the bottom of the 9th. And then out from like where the tarp is stored over there runs a real live skunk onto the field. And I'll let you obviously describe it. I remember this like it was yesterday too, because again, it's just one of those things. It's so funny, and then what happened afterwards just makes this kind of live as a legendary story around here.
Yeah. No, from what I remember, skunk comes out and just kind of one holds up the game, right? I mean, the game's got to pause because we got a skunk on the field, and it's just kind of trotting around the warning track up against the wall, outfield wall. I think at one point one of our security guys had kind of gotten involved and trying to move it along with his clipboard. Trying to move it up to the ramp, center field. So remember, I think one of our grounds guys is the one who actually caught it.
Fuchs, yep.
Mark Fuchs. And I think he's kind of our animal control guy on the crew,
The whisperer,
We'll go after anything.
So then I remember, too, obviously, we're down 1 run. It's the bottom of the 9th. Immediately after that happens, skunk is taken off the field. We get everything set. Players come back out after scurrying off the field. And I think it was the very next batter. It was an RBI single to tie the game, and then a line drive RBI single to win the game, too. So this is where this whole lore of rally skunk comes out of nowhere. It's just we were kind of mounting a comeback anyway, but it just seemed like the final catalyst
Yeah.
of like it's fate at this point.
Yeah, rally skunk.
Are there any other stories you can, maybe not even animal related,
Yeah,
just these kind of like
and,
oddballs?
I'm not sure if I would consider this odd, stadium wise, but just a memory I have was being down here the night of the tornadoes from May of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Our team actually came back from a road trip earlier that night, and our clubhouse manager forgot his keys, and so I brought keys down to him, and so he could get in. And I'm down here, so I'm going to do a couple things, but remember my wife calling saying, "Hey, you be careful! There's some tornado warnings going on." And like, okay, so start paying a little bit closer attention and see that there's tornadoes moving across Miami Valley, moving across like west to east, and everything touched down about a mile north of here, moved through like Northridge and up, through Dayton out to Beaver Creek, but just being here and when that happened. And then we lost power. And I guess it was kind of not, fitting that I was here because, the stadium lost power. And so was able to help kind of get calls out to.
Yeah, what do you have to do in that situation?
I think that the first thing it was like worrying about, because it was a game the next day, was worrying about all the concessions, the freezers and everything that contained food. And like, okay, we're out without power and what's going to happen. But those things actually have backups and so we were safe there, but we had to make some phone calls to DPNL and AES now that to make sure stadium power for the game the next day. But one of those things, it's like I'm just bringing keys down to get the team inside, and then a tornado hit.
Yeah. I can't remember any crazy weather. The only crazy weather game I can probably remember where we actually had people in the stands was maybe 2 years ago, where we had the huge hailstorm while people were here in the stadium. And obviously everybody took cover under the concourse, but these were like marble-sized pieces of hail that were falling, and they're coming down the stairs, and they're kind of like trickling down the stairs.
That.
And it's one of those things, I guess, when you have 22 years of anything in a clip of that long, you're going to have some kind of funny things that are going to happen. And then, oh, by the way, I guess probably the last big one, which everybody's had to deal with at some point, was we had a global pandemic that shut down an entire season here, which I don't think anybody ever saw coming.
No.
So for those that don't know, you handle a lot of the stadium operations. You also handle the team operations and the side of things. What does that look like on the back end when this messaging is coming down that, which no one thought was ever remotely possible, is like, we're not having a minor league season this year?
Yeah, obviously, I think when the decisions were made by Major League Baseball that the season wasn't going to start on time, there would be no minor league season. It was weird, it was kind of strange. It's like, what do you do? On the back end, we did keep up with the facility, right? You still got to keep an eye on things, and facility maintenance was here on site all summer, just make sure everything's working and operating, and our head groundskeeper was here on site, just mowing most of the time. Obviously not quite a busy day for him as it is on a game day, but you still got to take care of your field and infield and make sure that's not just going to waste for a whole summer. But there was what's also interesting is finally the major leagues got their alternate sites up and running. For the Reds, it was down in Mason, and the Major League season got going. So we did actually send some of the equipment that we had here down to the alternate site, baseballs and bats that were close enough by that they didn't have to ship stuff from Arizona. So we got a bunch of stuff moved down there.
Yeah, I think that's
the
what
alternate site.
From our side of things too, it's like, we lost a season, and that happens sometimes. I think from the players' side of things, it's interesting to think about is these guys have prepped for 12, 13, 14 years of their life for this one season and this moment to make something happen, where we've seen it on the field here before. In a matter of weeks, someone can become a top prospect to being cut. So things happen like that. Can you imagine what happens when you lose a whole year of your trajectory as a prospect, which is crazy.
It was kind of sad because I'm sure that there's probably a lot of guys that were going into that year to make a club and play and didn't get that chance. After going through that, and then restructuring of minor league going into 2021, there was a lot of guys that, probably lost, not only that year, but, a couple more years of baseball that could have been there for them.
Obviously, we've had some pretty interesting moments here at Dare Ballpark over the past 4 years. So, well, thank you for coming on today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, hey, my pleasure. Thank you.